Hey there and welcome. Today I'm sharing a little bit of background on when I began my minimalist journey, why it made the most sense to me and how I've stuck with it for the last 5 years. Approximately 5 years ago, we were in a really hard space. We had committed ourselves to far too many things and we were feeling stretched in a lot of areas. A number of things had happened prior, and one of them was moving across country and away from all our family and friends. So we were feeling quite isolated. My husband had just got back off an overseas deployment, and so we were re-establishing ourselves as a family. I started full-time work and we decided to build a new home in this environment that we didn't know and we'd never built before, but we thought it would be a bit of an adventure. Little did we know that we were actually heading into probably one of the hardest times in our married life, and we were going to be pushed to breaking point. Physically, our schedule was overloaded and chaotic. I was studying full-time, my husband was working full-time, we had the build going on, so we were feeling pressed in every area. We had bills coming in we couldn't afford. We were very overwhelmed with our time and our schedule, and therefore with no real downtime, we were really stretched emotionally. We just didn't have any space to think about how we were feeling. We just kept moving. But what I kept doing was praying for wisdom, praying for ways that we could make things better or change the situation. And we kept praying for strength to keep making decisions, to keep doing what we knew we needed to do, and to keep showing up for the commitments that we had, including our children, each other, and our financial obligations. Surprisingly though, our relationship was actually getting stronger. We were sticking together, we were sinking together, but we were still together. So we battled through that year, like literally just fought through every day, and it came to an end. My study came to an end and the build finally finished, and we decided to sell it. It wasn't necessarily the best decision, but it was a good decision at the time, and it's still unknown whether or not we should have done it, but it's more a case of we were so done, we were just desperate for some light at the end of the tunnel. We'd just had enough. It was a very difficult time for both of us. I actually specifically remember looking at my daughter's hair tie, and it's one of those elastic ones that if you stretch it enough, it starts to lose its elasticity, and that's how I felt. I looked at that and I thought it was just a metaphor for my life and how I was just stretched so thin. I had no bounce, no way of gaining energy. I was done. I got to the end of that and I was just shattered. We were quite devastated with our inability to make a good decision. We just didn't trust ourselves anymore. And at that time I was searching for just how to simplify my life. How was I not going to get into this situation again? And I came across Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Now this was 5 years ago, about 2014. And I devoured it, like I read it from cover to cover within about 24 hours. And I was highlighting bits, and I was just so inspired by her persistence and just thinking, if it doesn't bring me joy, it's got to go. And I loved that whole concept, and it just gave me energy and it gave me hope. Often we're looking for something to bring in that's going to fix something, a loan, or we're going to come into some money, or we're going to move and then things will be better, or we'll get a new job. Something's going to change that's going to add to us and make things different. But she was encouraging the opposite. She was saying remove things. I understood remove because we'd sold the house. We knew it had to be gone. We understood how to sever things off in order to create some space for ourselves to move. But this was slow drag, slow leak, things that were just ebbing away at your energy, like eroding it like a cliff. This was something that was new to me. So it's like, you know, a slow leak on an air mattress or a slow leak in a tire, compromising the strength. It looks okay on the outside, but slowly it's going down. So if something wasn't bringing me joy, if it wasn't bringing me energy, it was probably doing the opposite. It was probably draining and taking away, and I didn't know it. So I'd been doing this my whole life. At that time I was 37, 38. I had my whole life tried to accumulate things to make me happier. If I could have these things, then I was a success. I know that that's very basic understanding. We all know that those things aren't making you happy. At my core, that's what I thought. I was that person. Those people that you look at and you think, don't they see? That was me. underneath it all, we had not. So I grabbed this book and this concept and decided that I was going to make these changes. She had given me a blueprint. She'd given me a way to change things for myself and for my family. You have to understand, I was burnt. I struggled to get up in the morning. I struggled to make decisions. I wasn't sure about what my next steps should be, but I knew full well that this was something I had to do. And that was one thing I was certain of, and so I got to it. And within a month, I had decluttered our whole home, our 4-bedroom home. From top to bottom, I went through everything that she, step by step, had shown me. I taught my husband the same concepts, and he went through the garage. He wasn't too bad of a hoarder. It was incredible the amount of stuff we got rid of. So looking back now, I don't actually know what came first, the financial strain or the physical strain. And I'm not quite sure what I wanted to get rid of the most, but it was just this nagging thought that I was accumulating things that I didn't need, and I'd spent money on them, and I was so angry with myself. And over time, tidying up our physical space naturally flowed into tidying up our home life and the things that we were committing to physically, with commitments and activities and all the things that we were spending money on that we didn't necessarily need or could afford. It was just a natural evolution of this process, and it's so cheesy, but it was life-changing. You know, she was right. Her book is, I've heard said, is the most ridiculous title ever, but it's so true. It is life-changing magic, and it was work and it was painful to get to that point, but it changed everything afterwards. So what does minimalism look like for us now, 5 years on? I am not a hardcore minimalist that has no furniture and a fork. I live with a family, and that's not realistic. We have lots of visitors come through our home. The kids have friends. We have family come and stay all the time. We have 2 teenagers in the house, and they are not excited minimalists. They don't like it when I throw things away unnecessarily. I try to respect them going through their own process, and I try to always make them aware of what they're buying, why they're buying it, do they really need it, and I make sure that they know the concept of thoughtful purchasing. I don't want to enforce my beliefs on them, but it is something that they have to consider when they're buying things, and when we're living together we have to kind of appreciate each other's strengths. So I always allow them to keep things that are of value to them. I keep a lot of art and journaling materials that others would say is superfluous to requirements, but I enjoy it, I love it. I also keep memorabilia, a few extra things that belong to my grandmother, to my father, that belong to the children when they were small. I keep it contained and I keep it maintained, but those things bring me joy when I am maintaining them. And for me, it's never been about the look of minimalist. It's always been about the functionality and the practicality behind what I can afford, what I'm willing to pay for, what I need, and what I am prepared to store and maintain and look after. Now, the 3 main areas that I practice minimalism, one of them is in our physical belongings, of course. So that's in our furniture, our clothing, toys, books. I've found ways to keep it minimal. We buy a lot of ebooks on their Kindle. Our clothing, we each have an allowance. We just kind of have an idea of what we need. Our furniture, we have enough. And suffice to say, we do not hang around the mall much. Most of our purchases are deliberate. I go there knowing exactly what I want and where I'm going to get it from. Sometimes we go to the shops just to browse and to look, but often we don't take money. We're thinking about what we might get. Another area, one of the main areas that we keep it minimal is in the kitchen. I've kept it minimalist in our appliances and gadgets, things that we use, tools to create our food. Other is with the groceries, because I don't buy packaged items. I like to cook from scratch. That's not to say we don't go and get a pizza from time to time. That's fine, it's normal. I try to keep it clean in the kitchen, and it saves me hundreds of dollars. And the last area that I practice minimalism the most is in my calendar, and that would be for energy and time restraints. The calendar is where I've had to create the most space for myself, and we always love to be able to just hang out as a family and have that free time. So I have to be quite deliberate with that. With teenagers, they can be busy most evenings. The weekends are always quite full. That's part of our life. and I have to take those things into account and not overstretch us. Also talking to the children about managing their own time and managing their own events, and just talking to them through like, why are they doing what they're doing? Is it really of value to them? Do they get a huge amount out of it? If not, why not? And just getting them to be aware of the choices that they're making and why they're doing the things they're doing, rather than just doing them because everyone else is. And yes, there are times when I absolutely have to move it. Like there's a time limit, there's a time frame, we've got to get things done. It's not forever, like you can do anything for a little while, and I'm quite happy with those times, and it's so satisfying when you get those things done. But it's not like I'm going to live at that tempo. It's not sustainable for me. Have we got it all sorted? Absolutely not. Oh my goodness, in the 5 years since, I think we've botched it and gone backwards multiple times. What I've found is that the recovery is quicker. You all of a sudden realise the mistake you made, and you quickly backpedal, backtrack, retract what it is you committed to. This is our human nature that we are contending with. This is ingrained in me my whole life, and if I'm doing well 5 years in, I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm okay to show myself grace for those times where I have fully hit the floor and I really screwed up. You say sorry, you apologise, pay things back, make it right, again reassess why you did it. So from here on in, why we keep choosing this minimalist lifestyle and how it looks moving forward. Having a minimalist approach keeps me focused, it keeps me grounded, and it keeps me sane. I'm a minimalist now because I've never forgotten the crazy hopelessness that I was in. And when I step out of that, I run into all sorts of problems. Minimalism has changed my worldview so dramatically. I'm so appreciative of all those others that have learnt this, written it out, and shown us some of the ways to go. There's Josh Becker, Marie Kondo, I think of Greg McKeown, the Essentialist. It's all stuff that they've mapped out for us, but it's up to us to live it out. It's up to us to learn to say no, to make good choices, and to start choosing to opt out of this cycle of busy, buying, working, cleaning, storing, busy, buying, working, cleaning. So if you are interested in finding out more about this minimalist journey that I've been on, you can go to some of the links below. I've put down the links for Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Then we've got Joshua Becker's book. He writes on becoming minimalist, and he's written a number of books. And then I also would encourage you to read Greg McKeown's book, which is The Essentialist. He talks about people in business, families, overcommitted, to whittle things back to the most essentials. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you listening to my story, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.